think of story-driven Disney attractions, I doubt you'll think of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It's the wildest ride in the wilderness. There is a goat with dynamite. That's it. But there actually is a story to be told here. You just need to know where to look. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad was intended to be the start of a big story behind a future land called Discovery Bay. That land was never built, so it's not really relevant to any of the attractions. Why even bring it up? Because it was a backstory, even if it never made it to the final product. Maybe we can talk about Discovery Bay some other day. So because of that, the ride was left without any plot for years. Okay, I say that, but there was a song from a 90s Disneyland CD that gave some lore to the ride. It's called The Ballad of Big Thunder Mountain. It used to play in the ride's queue, apparently. I won't play it for you because, copyright, but I'll give you the skinny. The railroad is actually haunted. One night, a train came into a station empty. It was supposed to be filled with a bunch of people, but they vanished into thin air. Since then, the canyons have been cursed by the souls of the dead crew, and a bunch of natural disasters followed. So if you're thinking about getting on that train, don't. If you look up Ballad of Big Thunder Mountain on Google or YouTube, you'll come across it eventually. Check it out. But aside from that, as far as backstory goes, there was nothing. That was until a few years ago. In 2013, Walt Disney World's Big Thunder received an interactive queue. Disneyland's version soon followed with enhanced story elements. Both of these are important because they are the backbone to the Big Thunder Mountain story. It isn't just limited to the American attractions, though. It connects all of the Big Thunder Mountains and some tertiary attractions into one cohesive story. There's a lot of ground to cover, so let's just jump into it. We'll start where it all began. The Big Thunder Mining Company was founded by a man named Barnabas T. Bullion. Hailing from a wealthy family out east, when he found out about gold on the other coast, he was intrigued. He traveled west, founding the company in the town of Tumbleweed. Though the indigenous people warned him of the ill that would come to fortune finders, he didn't care. Gold was in his name, and he was entitled to all of it. But the mountain was protected by a spirit known as Big Thunder, protective of the gold in its hills, and wrathful upon those who disturb it. And Big Thunder was not kind to Mr. Bullion or his company. The mines were plagued by supernatural disturbances and natural disasters. Tumbleweed was nearly destroyed by droughts and floods. But Bullion didn't take no for an answer and kept the operation alive. In fact, to keep Tumbleweed afloat, he's begun to offer train tours of the mines to any visitors. To any and all who come, it's sure to be a wild ride. That is the backstory to Magic Kingdom's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, introduced through the interactive queue. But the story does not stop there. Spurred by the success of Tumbleweed, even with the hiccups, the Big Thunder Mining Company expanded to a new settlement, Rainbow Ridge. All was well and the population grew exponentially. One unnamed person called it the biggest little boom town in the West. But just as things were looking up, everything started going wrong. The mine was plagued by supernatural instances, like, say, trains moving on their own, or dynamite exploding by itself. Legends say that when the gold diggers started getting a bit too greedy, the restless spirits within the mountain weren't pleased. Whether or not it was true, the miners certainly began to believe it. They started placing horseshoes throughout the mining offices to ward off evil. That did little to save Rainbow Ridge. Soon people began looking elsewhere, and a population of over 2,200 people was reduced to 38. Meanwhile, the neighboring town of Frontierland started thriving amidst their downfall. The townsfolk started trying to gain territory from them, but by all accounts, the attempts failed. That probably did not make their prospects any better. Nevertheless, Rainbow Ridge is still scraping by, welcoming visitors to the mining building. They'll even let you take a train around the town. Rainbow Ridge is a namesake for the town at Disneyland's Big Thunder Mountain. The name came from the classic Frontierland attraction, Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, which occupied the land that became Big Thunder Mountain. Mine Train's Rainbow Ridge was bigger and in better shape than the one we find nowadays. Perhaps that was Rainbow Ridge during the initial boom. But once a natural disaster started happening, the town declined to the state we find in our trip today. Only an educated guess, but I think there's something there. As for that last bit, the rivalry between Frontierland and Rainbow Ridge comes from the role-playing game Legends of Frontierland Gold Rush. It was a playtest for the LARPing that would be a Galaxy's Edge, but it helped further the story of Rainbow Ridge's demise. Information's a little scattered on this, but when the gold and Big Thunder started drying up, the two towns fought over territory. Given that Frontierland is still standing today, I think we can assume that Rainbow Ridge wasn't successful. Back on track, you might wonder how I made the connection between Florida and Anaheim's Thunder Mountains. Well, both are being mined by the Big Thunder Mountain Mining Company. It isn't just the names they have in common, they also share the same logos. Either someone needs to sue, or they're the same company. According to a writer on the Disney Parks blog, Barnabas's portrait is hanging in the Panhandle Hotel in Rainbow Ridge. I couldn't find a picture of it, but multiple sources from Disney are confirming it, so I'm taking their word for it. And lest we forget the sign, the one that made me change the perspective of this whole video. What sign, you may ask? I'm not 100% sure where it sits in the attraction, but there's a sign that points to several different destinations and how far apart they are. The distances are just cheeky references, so that doesn't matter, but as you can see, Tumbleweed and Rainbow Ridge are right there. Confirmation that they're connected. But it isn't just the American parks, because if we zoom out, we can see two other places, Grizzly Gulch and Thunder Mesa. The former can be found at Hong Kong Disneyland, and the latter in Disneyland Paris. Quick aside, it's cute that the distances of those two locations are written in metric. So what are they? Well, shut up and I'll tell you. Grizzly Gulch was founded in August of 1888. Unfortunately, their founders didn't account for the fact that they built their town on top of a bunch of geysers. There's a reason why the old end of town is called Geyser Gulch. Seriously, how the hell do you miss that? Despite a rough start, their luck turned around. A captain by the name of Phineas Cosgrove was exploring and came across a family of 3 bears scratching their backs against the mountain. Once he left, he found gold and stuck his claim, starting the Big Grizzly Mountain Mining Company. Man, that is a mouthful. Unlike the ill fortune that befell BTMC, BGMMC had much luck in discovering gold, and Grizzly Gulch prospered. One time, a golden retriever led miners to a 150-pound nugget, on display at the assay office. The superstitious townsfolk thanked their fortune on the bear family that started it all. They became mascots for the town, nicknamed Rocky, Motherlode, and Nugget. They leave them alone in hopes to keep the town prosperous. That doesn't mean that the bears aren't a little prone to causing havoc, like sending a mine car loose or causing a couple explosions. Despite the good omens, mining in Grizzly Gulch is still a bit of a gamble. You might find gold, but you might also get your day ruined by a bear using the lever as a back scratcher. That said, they're still better off than most. While Hong Kong never got a Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, they do have an attraction very similar: Big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Cars. The ride is a little more intense than its American counterparts, featuring a backward segment a la Expedition Everest. And, referring back to the sign, Grizzly Gulch is only a carriage ride away from Tumbleweed and Rainbow Ridge. As for Thunder Mesa, it was founded thanks to the Golden Big Thunder Mountain. Big shock. They built their own Big Thunder Mining Company.
With blackjack and hookers!
The head honcho in these parts was one Henry Ravenswood. Ambitious, but also kind of a terrible person. He helped build the town from the ground up, eventually moving into a grand estate on the highest hill. Despite warnings of the Thunderbird's wrath, they continued to dig deeper into the mine, finding every bit of gold they could. Eventually, a massive earthquake rocked the town, killing most of its inhabitants, including Ravenswood. Thunder Mesa has managed to get by as a quiet river town, but there's still a lot of talk of the supernatural in those parts. Those people who died in the earthquake are said to still haunt the old town, forever trapped in the ruins of the past. And the Ravenswoods have become a topic of gossip and stories for the locals. I am never going to escape that attraction, am I? I won't give you that story. You can go watch my other videos if you want to hear that. Let's just stick with the attraction at hand. When Big Thunder Mountain reopened in Paris after a refurb, a newspaper was given out expanding the Thunder Mesa storyline. One page talks about the steamboat, the Molly Brown, detailing its history and its new voyages. Just below that article is an ad about cruises connected along the Western River line. This line connects Thunder Mesa to Rainbow Ridge, Tumbleweed, Stillwater Junction, and Grizzly Gulch on the rivers of the far west. So there you go, you can travel between all of the mining towns by steamboat. The odd man out here is Stillwater Junction. I have no idea what that's supposed to be referencing, and Google searches only gave me IRL locations. Process of elimination says that it might be Tokyo's Big Thunder, but there are no overt references to that name, at least to my knowledge. If there is, do let me know. But all of the other Western-themed runaway train coasters are covered except that one, so... Seems as good of a fit as any. Back to Thunder Mesa, there is a contradiction that needs to be addressed. You can explain away Anaheim and Florida's Big Thunders pretty easily. You can't really do that with Paris's. Bullion and Ravenswood don't have a connection that can be gleaned through either of their respective attractions. And they can't both be president of the company. Or can they? This is going down the speculative route, so just hear me out for a second. Ravenswood died in 1860 when he was 65. That means he was running the company for 20, 30 years tops, going off of what we know about his daughter. We don't have specific dates for the founding of either Tumbleweed or Rainbow Ridge. Perhaps, when Ravenswood was dead, Bullion took over the operations and moved it out to Tumbleweed. He gave the town a lot of money for the company and its name, and that's how they managed to get by without the mining. He's probably rich enough to do that. Time will tell if they reveal anything concrete, but that's my educated guess. Speaking of Barnabas, it's time we talk about his connections. The dude got around and knew some rather famous people. One of them was a man named Jason Chandler. He built a drill big and powerful enough to dig into the hardest places. That attracted Barney Boy's attention and he bought it. The two remained close since, and Jason was a frequent visitor in Rainbow Ridge. On the trail leading out of Frontierland, there's a wagon sitting on the curb. You can see a trunk with his name on it. The two went on expeditions together and exchanged letters. However, Jason seems to be of a different mindset on the mining. When Barnabas bought the drill from him, he warned him that mining into Big Thunder Mountain was not a good idea. Even as the operations grew, he continued trying to talk him out of it, telling him in a letter, "Some forces are simply not to be trifled with." You might be wondering, who is Jason Chandler? He was supposed to be the founder of Discovery Bay, but that never happened, so who is he in this universe? Well, he was a founding member of, and eventually became president of, the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Yep, we're finally talking about sea on this channel. According to the letter, which can be found in a queue in Florida, Barnabas frequented sea clubs all over the world. If you go to the Tropical Hideaway at Disneyland, you can see an oar with his name on it detailing his charting of the Colorado River. His oar sits alongside other members like Albert Falls, Henry Mystic, Harrison Hightower, and many more. So he was friends with the president, is honored in one of their hangouts, and was a frequent guest at their clubs. I think we can safely assume that Barnabas T. Bullion was a member of the society. I know all of this information is a little overwhelming, so for simplicity's sake, let's recap our timeline. Thunder Mesa and the Big Thunder Mining Company was formed by Henry Ravenswood, let's say, in the 1840s. The earthquake hit the town in 1860, killing Ravenswood in the process. Later on, Barnabas T. Bullion took over the operations, founding the towns of Tumbleweed and Rainbow Ridge. He met Jason Chandler along the way, who gave him the big drill for mining. Things were wonderful at first, but once the mining took off, everything started going wrong. In 1870, thanks to Jason, Barney started popping up at sea, and his accomplishments were recorded at their frequent hangout spots. In 1888, Grizzly Gulch was founded, and sometime later, the big Grizzly Mountain Mining Company followed suit. Stillwater Junction is somewhere in there too. Eventually, the 5 separate mining towns discovered each other and were connected via steamboat for trade and tourism. You are here. You are getting a tour of the mining headquarters, complete with a ride on the mine trains. You better hold on to your hats and glasses, because you're taking a trip on the wildest ride in the wilderness. And that, my friends, is the story of Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. We have connected each version of the attraction, and some tertiary ones, into one cohesive story. If you take anything away from this video, let it be this. The next time you find yourself in a Disney park, take a look around. You'll never know what you might find. Now, I'll pass the question off to you. What do you think of this overarching story I've found / put together? Is there anything I missed? What's your take on overarching stories in the parks in general? Whatever you're thinking, let me know down in the comments. Of course, I can't make a big conspiracy video about the Disney parks without giving a shout out to one of my favorite channels, Offhand Disney. If you haven't seen his stuff, go check it out. He does great work. With that said, that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.